So let's see how we can.
For 3 people, it's gonna be fun.
No, il y a 3. There are 3 actually. You must have one on yours. Okay. So, Monsieur le Ministre, le choix c'est une question en français and an easy one and a hard question in French, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Well, Matt usually asks me the tough one in English, so you can go in French.
Okay, so we can get started. Madame Sabar, over to you.
So, you know I will always want to grill you. You know that, right? Yeah, so, but I'm not going to grill you. This is easy for you. Let's start with the underinvestment in research and development.
It feels like... It feels like question period, you know, but I always say to my friends, I said, hope you have good questions for my answers. But let me start first just to say thank you very much to everyone for being in. Bonsoir tout le monde. I hope I'm not the only champagne you're going to have tonight because there's a lot to celebrate, by the way. So I hope there's other plans for the evening. But before we get started, I just want to acknowledge someone which I'm told is not necessarily in the room tonight. There'll be a lot of colleagues to thank, their senators, member of parliament. But I want to acknowledge a woman who has made history by, I think, being the first woman Minister of Science. And obviously, I'm talking about Dr. Christy Duncan. Christy Duncan has been an amazing trailblazer. She's a fighter, she's a leader. By the way, she just wrote that amazing book to bring more women in science, and I think everyone should get a copy of that. By the way, I don't have any copyrights on that, but let's bring more women in science. She was a trailblazer, she was a leader. I think she deserves a big round of applause. Everyone should. Yeah, she deserves it.
Okay. Now I can ask
Now to your question, right? Okay, here we go.
That was a very good interruption. Thank you. Canada has below average investment in R&D. We all know that, compared to other OECD countries, both in government as well as business. It's not just government, it's business as well. This limits innovation and economic growth as business lacks sufficient incentives and resources to engage in the high-risk but high-reward research projects. This has been a consistent issue for the past 2 decades. You know, Minister, Canada is at 1.7 average, OECD is 2.75, China is spending 5% of their GDP, US is spending 4.2, Germany is spending 3.8. We have a big gap. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I think we need to change our approach to that. I think if we want to succeed in the 21st century, and I'm sure I'm talking to an acquired crowd here in a sense, but we need to be a science-driven society. We need to be a research-driven society. We need to be a mission-driven society. And I think you're right. It's not just government, although I think that over the last few years, we have been doing a number of things which is improving the record. You're quite right that we should do more. But when I look at what we've done on the SR&ED tax credits, what we've done on AI, for example, what we've done in the investment in new infrastructures across the country, I would say you have no better friends when it comes to us in understanding that. I often say, you know, because, you know, analysts like these things and journalists in a way, but the science of today is the economy of tomorrow. So in terms of society, I think we need to grasp with that. And not only government, but I think we need each and every one of you to make sure that our companies would really take the science and innovation, I would say, high ground. Because when you look at the world today, and we can talk about the recent events out of our border, we'll need to be more ambitious. You know, my mission every day is to make a more ambitious Canada. Making sure that people understand that the work you do, the people in the room, and all of you, and by the way, you did a pretty good job in bringing so many people because you're competing with Taylor Swift this week. And if I compare the crowd in the room, you've done a pretty good job. But I think we just need to change the narrative and the culture. I think that we need to bring society along with us. But I think in one way, I have hope because I think that after COVID, in some ways, people or Canadians have renewed with science. People have understood the role of science in their lives. People have understood that science actually saves lives, but also that science is where we should invest. And we should be there as government. And I think that now we have you know, I was just coming from the Trilateral Commission in San Francisco the day before, and I was amazed to see when you talk to all these people there, they say, Canada has some of the best brains in the world. I mean, you know, we have Nobel Prize, which Art McDonald is with us, by the way, sir. Congratulations, and you're the pride of Canada. It's not every night that you have a Nobel Prize with you at your table, and I had the privilege tonight, and thank you for what you're doing at Snow Lab and many others. But I think about Jeff Hinton, I think about Joshua Benjamin. I mean, we have been at the forefront of developing the technologies, the innovations that are going to change the world, literally. And how do we inspire more young people? How do we inspire more women? How do we make sure that, you said it well, I think. I was listening to you when you say we need to bring Canadians on board with that agenda. We need each and every one of us have a role in order for people to understand that the investments of today are going to be improving the lives of people. And if you want to win in the economy of the 21st century, you need to invest in talent. You need to invest in innovation. Confident countries invest in themselves. So I hope that with you, I can change the narrative. We're happy to do our part. You know, we've done that. I think that we were pretty either with foresight or strategy, but the recent investment, for example, within an AI, that we say we have some of the best brain in the world, but these people need computing power. And it's quite remarkable today that everywhere I go, just at the recent G7 that we had even in Italy, part of the discussion was around computing power and data sovereignty. And you know what? Canada is a trusted partner. Canada is the place where people want to invest. Canada is the place where people want to come. And Canada is still a huge magnet for talent. But in order to win in the economy of the 21st century, we need to collectively make sure that everything you do, we bring back to Canadians and explain to them how is the impact on their lives.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre. I've already cut part of my next question. So,
Sorry, I didn't see the questions before, so.
So, il y avait quelques annonces dans le budget 2024, le Capstone, le Conseil de sciences et l'innovation, de la recherche axée sur la mission. Sur le projet Capstone, il y a beaucoup de discussions aussi avec plusieurs sessions de comité SRSR au Parlement. Où sommes par là sur ce dossier maintenant? Et c'est quoi le plan pour prochain chapitre?
Oui, bien, évidemment, on parle de l'organisation qui va chapeauter les trois conseils. Et là, je dois vraiment donner tout le crédit à Frédéric Bouchard. Monsieur Bouchard, vous êtes où que vous êtes? Monsieur Bouchard, levez-vous qu'on vous applaudisse. Monsieur Bouchard, merci d'avoir été la voix de l'ensemble de la communauté scientifique. Merci de nous avoir guidés dans la création d'une nouvelle organisation. Vraiment pour... Moi, je pense, puis j'étais avec Mona Nemer, qui est avec nous aussi, Mona, la scientifique en chef du Canada, oui, qui était avec nous, puis vraiment, qui fait un travail extraordinaire. Mais quand on a commencé à discuter avec Mona, on avait certainement cette idée-là qu'on devait avoir une organisation qui chapeaute un peu pour coordonner, pour avoir plus de coordination dans nos activités, aussi pour être une porte d'entrée à l'international, parce que vous savez, vous avez probablement entendu that Canada now is part of Horizon Europe. You know, we have a huge opportunity. I would say a generational opportunity. Yeah, and Mona is starting the applause, by the way, but she deserves it because actually it's quite astonishing to me that Canada now is part of the largest research endeavor in humanity, I would say $90 billion. And Canada is treated like a European country. And I see many of the EU ambassadors that are with us, and thank you, because, you know, when I go there, they often say Canada is the most European country outside of Europe, and sometimes more European than some others. And we're proud to be with you in that endeavor. Mais je pense que, pour revenir à votre question, c'est la coordination, c'est certainement aussi d'avoir des missions de recherche spécifiques. Et troisièmement, je pense d'être cette porte d'entrée-là à l'international pour permettre justement ces partenariats de recherche qu'on avait besoin.
Et sur le Conseil de sciences et l'innovation, quel a été le processus jusqu'à présent?
Bien, on avance. On est en train de regarder les nominations sur le Conseil de la recherche et l'innovation. Et ça, on s'est inspiré de certains pays. We're talking about the Research and Innovation Council. We look at what other jurisdictions are doing. The good thing about Canada, we're humble enough to take best practice from others, and bring it back and do it at our Canadian, in a Canadian way. So we've been looking a lot from our colleagues down south. We've been looking at the UK. We've been looking, obviously, at the EU. And now we're about, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, but I'll know very quickly by my staff when I leave the stage. But we're about to appoint the people very soon. So that's as much, I think, as I can say tonight. But we're about to appoint the people because I think ce conseil-là va avoir un rôle très précieux d'aviser le gouvernement, d'aviser le premier ministre sur des politiques. Because you know what? I think there are probably a lot of physicists in the room or scientists. Yes, here we are. But for a guy like me, it seems that time is accelerating. Probably you'd say that's not possible, Minister. But one thing we need to do better, I think humanity, we're not very good to think exponentially. We're pretty good at thinking on a linear basis. If you ask anyone in the room to imagine the technology, the innovation, that we will need in order to fuel the world in 30 years from now. If history is of any guidance, we're not very good at that. 5, 10 years we can, but beyond that, I'm 54 and I remember I was with the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen, you may know. I did fairly well on semiconductors, I would say. And I was with him recently. We spent 2 hours. And I said to him, the only thing I can compare in my life that has been transformational is the internet. And I think that would be probably most true for most people. The most transformational thing I've ever seen. So I'm sitting in front of him and I said, tell me, how do you think AI is going to be compared to the internet? How much more transformative? And he remained silent for 30 seconds. When you're two in a room and you're talkative like me and the person in front of you doesn't talk, that's a very long time. And he looked at me in the eyes and he said, I think it's going to be at least 100 times more transformational. And that evening I went home and I was calling my wife and I said, assuming he's wrong by 50%, assuming you're talking to someone who doesn't really know what he's talking about, assuming that, I'd say that would be 50 times. And I said, assuming he's bragging, assuming he's a big bragger, is good at market cap and all that, doesn't really know. Assuming he's 95% wrong, that would still be 5 times more than the internet. So to get back to your point, I would say that what I want to do with this council is not only prepare Canada for the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, but really see beyond the horizon. And really, to your team tonight, to really see, to have the foresight like we had before. Canada has always been an innovation powerhouse. Canada started in the aviation, in space. We've always been in many fields now, even in AI and quantum. By the way, I can give you another thing. When I was in San Francisco, I saw Grok. I don't know, some of you may know who they are. They're competing. And the nicest thing that I saw, they're American, but their chips, it says made in Canada because the largest packaging and testing facility in the world, 80% of all the semiconductor manufacturing in the United States are packaged and tested in Canada. And I was so proud to see on this chip. He wanted to give it to me, but I bet it's more than $200, so I left it on the table. But it was written made in Canada. I could not be more proud.
That was a very short answer, Minister, so please carry on. Thank you.
Well, Minister, at CSPC, we've had an innovation strategy project where we've consulted widely with stakeholders around this. And we've had sort of unanimous feedback from the stakeholders that misalignment and lack of coordination amongst various levels of government, federal, provincial, territorial, municipal, we have a lot in Canada, okay, is really a problem. The word that comes to mind to everybody is fragmentation. And when you talk to people outside as well, when you're looking for investments, I run a venture fund. I'm always looking for people to invest in Canada. The first thing they will say is there's fragmentation. You're not aligned. There seems to be a misalignment, this lack of cohesive national strategy, not having a big vision, a 10-year industrial strategic vision, which puts a stake in the ground where people know this is what Canada is, wants to be in 10 years, and this is where we can play with it. And also internally, how do we work together? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I agree with you largely. I would say And I would take the example on AI. We were the first country in the world with a national AI strategy. And I cannot take credit. Someone did that before me. But I would say whether it was foresight or luck, that put us at very front. When you talk to countries in the world, and by the way, we should be celebrating. Like I said, there's much to celebrate. I think it's today. My team would tell me if I'm wrong, but we have just announced in San Francisco that Canada and the United States and the United Kingdom, we announced our AI Safety Institute. So Canada, I was at Bletchley Park with Prime Minister Sunak, former Prime Minister of the UK, when we had this summit in the United Kingdom. I was there with Joshua. And in fact, now we have just announced, I think it's today or tomorrow, that Canada is going to be one of the first countries in the world. Has it been announced already? It's supposed. No, it's today or tomorrow. I can't remember because it's in San Francisco. But the good thing is that we're going to be announcing that with our US partner and the UK partner, and that put us at the forefront of responsible AI. And I would say it's the same thing on quantum. We were one of the first countries in terms of national quantum strategy. And I think what you're saying, to try to coordinate different agencies of government, different levels of government, I think those were, if there was any example of where, because we had a national strategy, that we have punched above our weight, I think AI is a great example, in quantum even. By the way, I just announced I was in Montreal a few weeks ago, and I was there at, I think it was the ETS, and I think l'ETS sont ici ce soir. Ouais, vous êtes là-bas. On a annoncé le premier ordinateur quantique fait entièrement au Canada. So when I was at ATS, we announced the first entirely Canadian-made quantum computer, and that was at ATS. So when we get our act together, we do great things.
Merci beaucoup. Because
Minister, we must get our act together, and you will help facilitate that.
I try. I do my part, but it's true. But I think why I gave these examples is that when we've done it, we have definitely punched above our weight. And more importantly, I would think, because you're looking at multidisciplinary research, you're looking at international partnership, I think the fact that we were having a national AI strategy, I can take that example because when I came back from the AI, not the AI, but the G7 in Italy, I would say 50% of the agenda were probably on AI. And the fact that Canada, not only on the first, we were the first country to have an AI national strategy, but also that we have the largest startup in AI, that we have also with the Americans as well, a voluntary code of conduct. We have a law on the books that we're trying to pass to Parliament. Honestly, it gives us a standing on the international stage that we should learn lessons from. And that's why I'm a very big fan of these national strategy because, like you said, we are fragmented. I think the Capstone organization is going to help us to focus, to really be a mission-driven, like I said, a science-driven, innovation-driven society. And I think Capstone is going to do that, coordinate, make sure that we can do international partnership, and at the same time keep the independence so that we have research-led organization, and we have the three council which are here. And I just want to acknowledge their presence and the amazing work they're doing on behalf of Canadians. So they're all here. I see Alessandro Ten and.
for the interest of the time, I think you may want to ask the last question. So because as a conference organizer, I am always conscious of time, and we have a long night to get. And Minister has a dinner appointment, by the way.
I'm between the silent and the main course.
Just the last question. And Minister, 1 minute response.
Last question, Minister. So the innovation policy and geopolitics, okay?
You want that in 1 minute?
Yes.
Or 30 seconds.
Hold on.
All right.
Let's focus a little bit on the American scenario and election and being our biggest trading partner. How concerned are you about the capital and manufacturing capacity being moved to the south of the border? And what is your sense of the new American policies on these issues? What are your initial thoughts?
I may ask for indulgence because I don't know if the servers are coming with the steak, but just hold on for a minute because there's no way I can answer that in 30 seconds or 1 minute. But I'll tell you a couple of things, but I'll try to be concise. With the Team Canada effort that we have engaged for many months, you know, I was I'm still co-chair with Mary Ng and a number of colleagues have contributed, but there's three things that is top of mind when we've been engaging with our American counterparts. And I'll tell you why I'm hopeful about Canada after. The first thing is around security. Security of a border, security of the North and the Arctic. And I would say that the world has changed significantly from my days as trade minister in 2015. And I remember being at the business roundtable with the Americans. The issue of security is top of mind to everyone. The second one is supply chain resiliency. There's a still aftershock from COVID, and I think we've moved from global supply chain to regional supply chain with more emphasis on resiliency than pure cost. And the last thing is a growth agenda with our American friends where we say, we understand, we get it. And I would say, because now I have the audience to say that, I think that the posture that we have been taking on research security, and I want to say thank you to everyone in this room who have been in this journey with us, is making a difference. Our American friends have seen that we understand when we need to protect our critical strategic supply chain. We need to protect our critical research. We need to be eyes wide open when we're engaging with nations who may not share the same values and purpose than we have. And I think this is resonating with our friends in the South. Why I'm so hopeful about Canada, even in this negotiation that, you know, there'll be a review. And I think I was just with the Manufacturer Association this morning. I think I'm hopeful for 5 things. I think the first thing that I would say, well, we are more integrated than we have ever been. And I'll give you a few examples. My example about the semiconductor for me is telling. This was in my first meeting with the US administration where I was saying, by the way, and you don't need to take it from me, when President Biden came to Canada, President Biden said in the House of Commons, don't take my word verbatim, but the spirit was the United States of America cannot be resilient on semiconductor without Canada. That was the essence of his message from a US president to say that Canadians and the work we've been doing in the design, but also in the packaging and testing is amazing. I'll give you another example. When I was with the US administration, the first time I said to my counterpart, I said, Madam Secretary, do you know there's only one refinery of cobalt in all of North America? And assuming that you believe that semiconductor is the DNA of progress, cobalt is a fairly significant critical mineral that you need. And she looked at me and she looked at the staff and said, is that true? And people said, yeah. And she said, I guess you're going to tell me where it is. And, you know, I'm bragging on behalf of Canada all the time. So I said, yeah, it's in Cobalt, Ontario, by the way. And I say the point that I was trying to make, I said, do you know how long it took to permit? More than 10 years, 30 years ago. So if you wanted yours, that's going to take you at least 2 decades with lawsuits and everything. So I said, you know what? What we need to do is to see this North American continent as one. That we use these critical assets we have, whether it's critical minerals, whether it's energy, whether it's semiconductor, to make sure that we can not only offer possibilities and opportunities for our industry, but also that we are resilient in the world. And I would say, and I'll stop very much there, but I'd say I see the world in 4D. And I know some scientists would say, good luck with that. But I see the world in 4D. First one, and I think in the 4, Canada is at the forefront of it. The first one is decarbonization. Whatever administration you can have, I think the challenge of climate change is going to be upon us, and decarbonization is key. And Canada was at the forefront. We've been decarbonizing key industry, whether it's steel, aluminum, the battery, and everything. The other D is digitization. There's no doubt that we're going in a more digital economy with quantum, cyber, AI, and when you combine that, there's great things. But there again, I would say, and I was at a conference, there's still, if we want to move from fear to opportunity, we need to build trust. And you build trust when you have safeguards and guardrails, and that will allow innovation and adoption. The third D is demography. And in that, I think Canada is still a huge magnet for talent. And as long as we remain a magnet for talent, that we have the people we need to grow, we're going to be in a good trajectory. And the 4D is disruption. I think we're going to live in a world of disruption. But in a world of disruption, countries like Canada, which have the talent, the stability, the predictability, and the rule of law, I think we're in a good place. The fundamentals are right. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would just say, let's seize the moment. Let's be ambitious. Let's make Canada a science-driven nation. Merci tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup. So that was a 1 minute version, Minister Champagne version of 1 minute. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre, pour ce soir. Merci.